Alright guys, it's time to talk about my favorite system of all time, and that is the Super Nintendo. This was without a doubt Nintendo's greatest achievement because this system, I can't say enough good things about it. It was exactly what I wanted, which was a more powerful Nintendo. And, saying that nowadays, that might be a little, I don't know, weird. Like, oh, that's all you wanted? Yeah, that's all I wanted, was a much more powerful Nintendo. The amount of hours I sunk into this thing alone was just ridiculous. This is my original Super Nintendo that I got like in '92, maybe '93, and it still plays like a champ. I mean, these old Nintendo systems, they will stand the test of time as long as you treat them with respect. So, without further ado, let's get into some of the games here. First up, we have Axlay, which is a fantastic shooter. It really kind of, in the early days of the Nintendo, kind of showed what the Super Nintendo could do. Just a fantastic graphics for its time. We got Batman Returns, which, much like the Batman on the regular Nintendo, is another fantastic beat-em-up. These old Batman games are really good. Then we got Breath of Fire 1 and Breath of Fire 2. Two fantastic RPGs that, interestingly enough, are made by Capcom, which back in the day we didn't know that because it was Squaresoft for Breath of Fire 1, but then when Capcom came out with Breath of Fire 2, we were all like, what? So, but, fantastic RPGs. Then we have Darius Twin, which is a pretty fun shooter on the Super Nintendo. If I remember correctly, it kind of has some slowdown though. It's not the best one on there, but it's still pretty good. And then we have Donkey Kong Country 1 and Donkey Kong Country 2. I don't have 3. I never got around to buying 3. It's kind of something that's on my peripheries. It's not something I'm rushing out to get, but if I find it in the wild for cheap, I'll probably pick it up. But I love this game. I didn't like this one as much, but this one I sunk countless hours into. Alright guys, and then here is one of my great achievements with the Super Nintendo, and also one of my biggest, regrets, disappointments, and that is Earthbound. I got Earthbound when it first came out, and first off, this is a fantastic RPG. Nintendo needs to bring back the Mother series to the Americas. I mean, this was just fantastic. I loved it. For the longest time, I had the huge box, and then we moved, and I was like, what am I going to do with all these game boxes? And I threw the box away. I still kick myself to this day because I think the box itself is actually worth more than the game. But I still have the game and I still have the guide, so I guess I'm doing okay. But God, I had that box for the longest time. And we got F-Zero, still a fantastic racer. I don't think F-Zero gets the amount of praise it should in relation to the Mario Kart series. I think Mario Kart, everyone loves Mario Kart, but not everyone gives love to F-Zero. It's something that Nintendo should really look into. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. It's kind of a sign of the times when Japan was trying to get us into RPGs, and how are they going to get us into RPGs? They send us a watered down game, but actually I had a lot of fun with it, and I still think it's a pretty fun curiosity piece. And then the Super Nintendo has what I consider to be some of my favorite games of all time, and my favorite games in the series. And this game right here, guys, Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy VI, whatever you want to call it, this is my favorite game of all time. I don't think there's going to be an RPG ever that beats this game in terms of its storyline, its graphics, and the amount of time I spent with this. I beat this game 17 times, start to finish. That's how much I loved it. I'm going to do a Final Fantasy series, and I'll probably do just a video on this alone. But this is a fantastic game, guys. And then we have Gradius 3, which is another pretty good shooter on the Super Nintendo. Illusion of Gaia, a fantastic game. Killer Instinct. nothing touched us back in the day on the Super Nintendo. It was that, I mean, it was that good. Not as good as the arcade game, but still excellent. I love the black cart. Lagoon. My favorite Zelda of all time, Zelda: Link to the Past. It's like kind of like with Final Fantasy III. I don't think they've made a Zelda yet that can touch this. It's fantastic. And then we have Mega Man X and X3. I don't have X2. I just never got around to getting it, and I'll probably get it. Even though I have the Mega Man X collection, the PS2, I kind of want to have all three of them for the Super Nintendo. And then my favorite Mortal Kombat of all time, Mortal Kombat 2. I think this is where the series kind of started taking a nosedive. I don't have the new Mortal Kombat, but I have played it, and I think it's pretty good too. But this was fantastic. Phalanx. Now this is more famous for having terrible box art than it is for, you know, being a good game, but it is actually a really good shooter on the Super Nintendo. But let me get a little closer there. God, you gotta love that label art, that hick with the banjo and then the ship flying behind it. It's just fantastic. Fantastic old art. Secret of Evermore. And then, of course, Secret of Mana. I've had this game since, well, this is not my original copy. I traded my original copy for a copy of Final Fantasy VII in high school because I was an idiot. But I managed to get another copy of it, and this is just a fantastic game. Unfortunately, the Mana series has kind of been treated very poorly by Square, and it's not what it used to be. Here's another game that ate a bunch of time in my life. This is SimCity for the Super Nintendo. Fantastic game. It really got me into the SimCity series, which I still really love the SimCity series just because of that game. And then my favorite Mario game of all time, Super Mario World, and then I also have Super Mario All-Stars. But this game, guys, this is when Mario was at his best. God, just when you first put in this game back in the day, it was so mind-blowing, getting Yoshi and just running around with the cape, and oh my god, I love the Super Nintendo. It's the best system ever. And another favorite game in the series, this is Super Metroid. I mean, Nintendo is really missing the ball with this game because, you know, the DS would have been perfect for either a port of this or more 2D Metroids, and they're really, really letting the Metroid series just kind of wither on the vine. And it's sad because this is what Metroid is supposed to be, not these 3D games. 2D game, you know, Konami knows that with the Castlevania series. Nintendo needs to learn that with the Metroid series. Sometimes older is better. Super R-Type. And then we have Star Fox, which is a pretty, I mean, even to this day, putting it in and, you know, playing on the Super Nintendo, it's still pretty impressive that the Super Nintendo was able to put out those kind of, you know, 3D graphics. Star Trek Starfleet Academy, you know, not for everybody, but if you like Star Trek games, this is a pretty fun game. You know, it's kind of old, so it's not going to play, you know, extremely well, but it's still a fun thing to see, you know, back in the day. I loved it back in the day. And we got Street Fighter II Turbo, which, I guess, sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. I guess if I had to be honest, my favorite Street Fighter would have to be Super Street Fighter II Turbo on the Super Nintendo, but this is the version that I have, and so this is going to be my favorite version of Street Fighter, just because the amount of time that I spent with this game playing it with my brother was ridiculous, and you know that you've played too much of this game when you get a blister here, a blister down here, and a blister over here, and maybe one up here too. I at one time had three separate blisters on my finger because of this game. You know, fantastic. Thunder Spirits, which is a port of Thunder Force 3 for the Super Nintendo. It's not as good as the Sega Genesis version because the processor in the Super Nintendo is not as fast as the Sega Genesis processor. But, you know, it's still, I had to pick it up because I love the Thunder Force series. And then finally for the Super Nintendo we have Ys 3 Wonder of Ys, which is the first This is the first version of Ys 3 that I played. Not the first Ys game, but the first version of Ys 3, because there's about... God, you can get Ys 3 on basically every system, but this is usually kind of treated as a black sheep in the Ys series, but I actually really love this. I love the side-scrolling aspect to it. I thought it was a nice, refreshing take on the RPG genre. But, yep, guys, that's my Super Nintendo collection. Like I said, my favorite system of all time, and the system I spent the most time with, probably because of Final Fantasy III in and of itself, beating it 17 times. That's ridiculous. But, you know, it has some of my favorite games of all times, and basically a lot of the favorite games in series of all time, you know what I mean? So, that's my Super Nintendo collection. You know, leave me a comment, tell me what you think about the Super Nintendo. Is it your favorite system, or are you looking for one? Alright guys, I'll see you next time.